Born in 849 AD in Wantage, in the Kingdom of Wessex, Alfred was the youngest son of King Athelstan. His early years were shaped by a mix of royal privilege and the looming threat of Viking invasions that plagued Anglo-Saxon England. Alfred's education was notable. He was tutored rigorously in Latin, theology, and the classics, shaping his lifelong interest in learning and governance. The period of Alfred's youth was marked by political instability, as Viking raids escalated in intensity and frequency. When Alfred's elder brothers predeceased him or died in battle, Alfred's path unexpectedly led him to kingship. In 871 AD, amid a series of 9 brutal battles against the Vikings, Alfred succeeded his brother Thallard as king of West. His early reign was fraught with conflict. The kingdom was fragmented and vulnerable, with much of England under Danish control. Alfred's resilience and shrewd leadership became crucial as he organized the defense of his realm through military, administrative, and cultural reforms that would shape his legacy. Alfred's military achievements and defense of Wessex. Alfred the Great's reign was punctuated by relentless dedication to defending the Kingdom of Wessex from the formidable Danish Viking invaders who had ravaged much of England. Early in his reign, Alfred faced overwhelming odds as the Vikings pressed deeper into Anglo-Saxon territories. His most pivotal military success came at the Battle of Edington in 80, where Alfred decisively defeated the Viking forces led by King Olaf. This victory was a turning point. It forced the Danes to retreat and enter into a peace agreement that included Olaf's baptism and vow to respect boundaries. Alfred's strategic genius extended well beyond the battlefield, understanding that continuous defense was essential to lasting peace. Alfred engineered a comprehensive system of fortified settlements called burhs. These strongholds were strategically placed throughout Wessex to protect towns and key routes, providing refuge and bases for defending forces. Alfred also restructured the army, introducing a rotation system known as the whereby every able-bodied man served both militarily and agriculturally, balancing defense with economic life. Recognizing the importance of maritime defense, Alfred is credited as the founder of the Royal Navy. He commissioned ships specifically designed to combat Viking longboats, securing coastlines from raids. In 886, Alfred regained control of London, which had been under Viking occupation for decades, further consolidating his authority and inspiring unity among the English people. Through these military and defensive innovations, Alfred not only secured his kingdom's survival, but laid the groundwork for what would evolve into a unified England. His success in combating Viking incursions earned him a reputation as a protector and visionary leader, whose efforts transcended mere survival to shape the future of British identity and sovereignty. Alfred's educational and cultural reforms, building a learned kingdom beyond his military triumphs. Alfred the Great stood out as an enlightened ruler deeply committed to education and cultural revival. He believed that intellectual strength was vital to the moral and spiritual health of his kingdom and essential for its survival amid the chaos of war. Recognizing the widespread decay of Latin literacy and its impact on governance and religion, Alfred embarked on an ambitious project to promote learning among his people. His vision was to educate all the freeborn young men now in England who have the means to apply themselves. By setting up schools and promoting vernacular literacy, Alfred invited scholars from across Britain and continental Europe to his court, including notable figures like Asser from Wales and Grimbold from Francia. He established a court school that provided education not just for his own children, but for nobles and future leaders, creating an intellectual hub committed to the liberal arts. Understanding the power of language to unify and educate, Alfred commissioned translations of vital Latin texts into Old English, making knowledge accessible beyond the clergy. These included religious works and important historical chronicles, fostering a cultural renaissance that preserved Anglo-Saxon identity. He also founded monasteries and supported schools attached to them, which served as centers for learning, literacy, and religious instruction across the kingdom. Alfred's emphasis on educating the clergy ensured that they could effectively teach and guide their communities, reinforcing the spiritual fabric of Wessex. This revitalization of education under Alfred Nado's reign not only strengthened his kingdom internally, but laid the foundations for England's intellectual tradition, echoing through centuries in its law, literature, and governance. Alfred's legal reforms and the creation of the Dombac. Alfred the Great's reign was not only defined by military triumphs, but also by landmark legal reforms that sought to bring order, justice, and cohesion to a fractured society. Recognizing the need for a unified legal framework after years of conflict and Viking invasions, Alfred compiled what became known as the Dambak, or Book of Judgments, a code, drawing upon previous Anglo-Saxon laws and biblical principles, particularly from the Book of Exodus. This law code merged secular customs with Christian ethics, emphasizing the importance of oaths, fairness, and social responsibility. Alfred detailed specific penalties and compensations for various offenses, including property disputes, bodily harm, and family matters. His laws introduced the concept of wargild, a system of fines paid as restitution, which helped reduce blood feuds and brought a sense of measured justice. More than a legal manual, the Dambak was an ideological manifesto shaping the king's vision of a godly, orderly realm. It established the king's role as protector and lawgiver, acting as the foundation of governance and societal standards. Alfred insisted on appointing judges who were wise, literate, and morally grounded to enforce these laws consistently. The legal reforms also reinforced Alfred's efforts to extend royal peace and authority across Wessex and surrounding territories, uniting the people under a shared system of laws and ethics. Although enforcement challenges remained, the Dambak's influence persisted, setting the stage for the development of English common law. By codifying justice and intertwining it with Christian principles, Alfred created a legacy where law was not merely punitive, but a tool for societal harmony, an enduring cornerstone of his legacy as a reformer and visionary monarch. Alfred's personal life and family, a king and his legacy. Alfred the Great's personal life was marked by his marriage to Ealhswith of Mercia, a princess from a neighboring kingdom. The marriage, likely arranged around 868 AD, was important politically, symbolizing alliances that would strengthen Alfred's position and influence beyond Wessex. Ealhswith was a woman of noble lineage, but, like much of Alfred's private life, remained somewhat mysterious to historians, with few contemporary records detailing her life beyond her royal connection. Together, Alfred and Ealhswith had at least 5 children who survived into adulthood, continuing the royal lineage and contributing to the stability of the realm. Their children included Athelstan, who became a powerful and respected leader known as the Lady of the Mercians, playing a critical role in the ongoing defense and governance of English territories. Edward the Elder, who succeeded Alfred as king and continued his father's efforts to unify England. Ethelgifu and Ethelwerd, who held significant noble positions within the kingdom. Elfrith, who later married into noble bloodlines, further consolidating royal influence. Alfred's family was not merely the private sphere of affection, but an integral part of his political strategy, binding Wessex and Mercian interests and securing alliances through strategic marriages. Despite the heavy burdens of kingship and constant warfare, Alfred was known to be a devoted husband and father. Contemporary accounts, such as those by the monk and biographer suggest that Alfred was a man deeply committed to his family, while also balancing his enormous responsibilities as both warrior and reformer. The royal household was also an epicenter of cultural and intellectual activity. Alfred's children receiving education and training designed to prepare them for leadership roles that extended the king's legacy. Alfred's personal resilience, combined with a strategic family life, ensured that his vision for Wessex and eventually England would endure long after his death in 899 AD, firmly anchoring the Anglo-Saxon monarchy as a significant historical force. Alfred the Great passed away on October 26, 899 AD, in his capital city of Winchester. The precise circumstances of his death remain unclear, though it is speculated that his lifelong health issues, possibly including a chronic stomach illness, such as Crohn's disease, contributed. Despite his physical frailty, Alfred's reign was marked by extraordinary resilience and achievements. He was originally laid to rest in the Old Minster Cathedral at Winchester, a site that symbolized his central role in the unification and spiritual life of England. Soon after, his son and successor Edward the Elder commissioned the new minster nearby as a larger, fitting mausoleum for the dynasty Alfred had founded, marking the start of a royal lineage that would shape English and British history for centuries. Alfred's death marked the end of a seminal era, but the beginning of his enduring legacy: security, reform, and unity. During his lifetime, He not only defended Wessex from Viking conquest, but also laid down frameworks for governance, justice, and cultural revival. His promotion of literacy, legal codification, and military innovation inspired his successors and created the cultural foundations upon which the English nation was built. King Alfred is remembered as the first English monarch to be given the epithet Great, a rare honor that illustrates the magnitude of his impact on England's history and the monarchy. Future. His reign forged a path from warring fiefdoms to a united realm, offering a blueprint for kingship that couples strength, wisdom, faith, and justice, a model that continues to resonate in the monarchy and British identity. Alfred's unification and cultural legacy. The foundations of England. Alfred the Great's reign was monumental not only for repelling Viking invasions but also for laying the foundations of a more unified Anglo-Saxon England. His remarkable success in defending Wessex changed the course of English history, creating the political conditions necessary for future unification efforts. A key element in Alfred's legacy was his diplomatic acumen. Following the decisive Battle of Edington, Alfred negotiated the Treaty of Wedmore with Viking leader Gut. This treaty established the Danelaw, dividing England into Danish-controlled and Anglo-Saxon territories. Although tensions remained, the agreement restored relative peace and order, allowing Alfred to consolidate power and govern effectively. Alfred commissioned the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, a landmark historical record, written in Old English. This document became a vital unifying cultural artifact that chronicled the history and struggles of the English people. By encouraging a shared narrative and language, Alfred fostered a sense of common identity among disparate Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. His commitment to legal and educational reform also reinforced social cohesion and royal authority. The court schools, translations of key works, and the law code reflected a vision of governance that combined strength with learning and justice. Ultimately, Alfred's reign set in motion the slow process of unifying the English nation. His son, Edward the Elder, and later descendants would continue this work. But it was Alfred's vision and reforms that laid the structural and cultural groundwork, a legacy that shaped the English monarchy and national identity for centuries. Alfred's role in the formation of a unified English nation. Alfred the Great was much more than a wartime leader. His reign marked the embryonic stage of a united England. His strategic successes in battle secured the survival of Anglo-Saxon culture, but it was his foresight in governance and culture that shaped the future identity of the English nation. One of Alfred's significant accomplishments was the fortification of his kingdom, Wessex, through the network of burhs, which not only provided defense, but also stimulated economic activity. His capture of London in 886 further expanded his control, signaling Anglo-Saxon resilience and laying a foundation for political centralization. Alfred's commissioning of the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle created a shared historical narrative that fostered national consciousness across fragmented kingdoms. In addition, his reforms in law, education, and religion unified diverse populations under common institutions. By negotiating the Treaty of Wedmore and establishing the Danelaw, Alfred effectively divided England between Anglo-Saxon and Viking spheres, ensuring relative peace and enabling governance to strengthen. His recognition as king of the Anglo-Saxons elevated him from a regional king to a unifying monarch acknowledged by all free English peoples. Although the full political unification of England would take decades after his death, Alfred laid the institutional, cultural, and military groundwork for this transformation. His reign introduced concepts of kingship that integrated martial prowess, legal justice, and piety. Therefore, Alfred is often regarded as the first king of all England in spirit, setting the stage for his successors such as his son Edward the Elder and grandson Athelstan to consolidate the nation fully. The succession of Edward the Elder continued in Alfred's vision when Alfred the Great died in 899 AD. His eldest son, Edward the Elder, succeeded him as king. Edward inherited a kingdom shaped by his father's hard-won military victories, cultural initiatives, and legal reforms. However, the transition was not entirely smooth as Edward faced immediate challenges to his rule. Alfred's cousin, Thelwold, contested Edward's succession, claiming a stronger right to the throne based on being the son of Alfred's elder brother. King Thelwold, the first Thelwold's seizure of key royal estates, and his insistence on his claim sparked rebellion, testing Edward's leadership early in his reign. Edward acted decisively, raising armies loyal to his cause and confronting Thalwold's forces. With support from nobles aligned with Alfred's legacy, Edward eventually suppressed the revolt, securing his kingship. His coronation took place on June 8, 900 AD at Kingston, upon Thames, bordering Wessex and Mercia, symbolizing his authority over these lands. During Alfred's reign, Edward had played an active role in military campaigns and governance, preparing him well for kingship. Alfred's will and political maneuvers had favored Edward, ensuring he received substantial land and power while limiting the influence of potential rivals. Edward's reign built upon Alfred's foundations. He extended control over Mercia and East Anglia, continuing the push to reclaim Viking-held territories. Notably, he fathered Athelstan, who would become England's first king to rule over a fully unified realm, representing the fulfillment of Alfred's vision. Edward the Elder's succession demonstrates the complexities of medieval monarchy, balancing rival claims, consolidating power through alliances, and continuing ambitious reforms. His reign was crucial in advancing the integration and unification of England, marking him as a worthy heir to Alfred's remarkable legacy. Athelstan, the first king of a unified England following his father Edward the Elder's death in 924. Athelstan ascended the throne as King of Wessex and Mercia, eventually crowned King of all England in 925 at Kingston upon Thames. His reign marked the crucial moment when the fractured Anglo-Saxon kingdoms coalesced into a singular political entity. First true Kingdom of England. Athelstan's military prowess became evident as he subdued rebellious Cantref of Cornwall and wreaked York from the Vikings in 927, effectively ending Viking rule over Northumbria. Beyond military conquest, Athelstan secured formal allegiance from the kings of Scotland and Wales, extending his influence across the British Isles. One of Athelstan's defining moments came in 937 at the Battle of Brunanburh, where a coalition of Scots, Vikings, and Strathclyde Britons united against him. Athelstan's decisive victory cemented his authority and earned praise across Europe, solidifying his reputation as a powerful and effective ruler. His governance introduced centralization unseen before, standardizing coinage across his realm and reinforcing legal codes to strengthen order. Athelstan fostered alliances through strategic marriages, including his sister's union with the Viking king of Northumbria, signaling diplomatic sophistication. Athelstan's coronation is often noted as the first where a crown was worn instead of a helmet, symbolizing the birth of monarchy as known in England. His reign inaugurated a period historically referred to as the imperial phase of English kingship, distinguished by unprecedented political and administrative unity. Though his death in 939 led to temporary setbacks and Viking resurgences, Athelstan's legacy endured as the architect of England's unified monarchy, laying foundational structures for the nation's future stability and expansion. The Anglo-Saxon era after Athelstan's successors and challenges after Athelstan's death in 939 AD. The English throne passed to his half-brother Edmund I, and later to other successors such as Edwig and Edgar, who each continued to consolidate the kingdom amid external threats and internal dissent, while Alfred the Great, Edward the Elder, and Athelstan had laid a strong foundation for a unified England. Their successors faced ongoing Viking raids and regional autonomy challenges, particularly in northern territories. Edmund I worked tirelessly to reassert control over the Danelaw and secure peace with neighboring kingdoms. His unexpected assassination in 946 led to a brief period of instability, but his successors managed to maintain the fragile unity. Eadredar, 946 to 955, fought to subdue rebellious nobles in Northumbria and continued to push Viking influence further north. His reign was seen as the continuation of the struggle to hold together the diverse peoples and territories under the English crown. King Edgar R. 959 to 975 is credited with bringing a rare period of peace and prosperity, promoting religious reform and enhancing royal administration. His reign signified the culmination of the Anglo-Saxon monarchy's development before the turbulent years leading to the Norman conquest. Despite the challenges, The achievements across these reigns reflect the enduring legacy begun by Alfred the Great, a monarchy increasingly centralized, with evolving institutions of law, administration, and military defense that would influence England's future. Edgar the Peaceful, stability, and monastic reform. King Edgar, reigning from 959 to 975, earned the epithet the Peaceful not for his temperament but for the remarkable stability and prosperity he brought to England. Sharp contrast to the turbulence preceding his rule. His reign was marked by a consolidation of royal authority, centralization of governance, and a flourishing church reform movement. Edgar reinstated diplomatic relations with key religious figures, notably recalling St. Dunstan from exile and appointing him Archbishop of Canterbury. Together, they led the English Benedictine reform, revitalizing monastic life, discipline, and education, strengthening the church's moral and political influence. Administratively, Edgar divided England into shires, overseen by appointed aldermen, improving tax collection and justice enforcement. He standardized laws, bolstered economic growth, and promoted trade, with expanded naval defenses reaching a fleet of nearly 4,000 ships to protect against Viking raids. The famous ceremony at Chester, where neighboring King's Road, Edgar on the River Dee, symbolized his dominance and England's unity under his rule. Under Edgar, England saw an unprecedented era of peace, legal reform, and ecclesiastical renewal, laying robust foundations for the medieval English monarchy. Despite fewer military conflicts, Edgar's reign significantly influenced England's political and religious landscape, aligning royal and church interests and shaping a cohesive, prosperous kingdom. Alfred the Great stands as a towering figure in British history, remembered as the king who preserved Anglo-Saxon England from Viking conquest, and laid the cultural, legal, and administrative foundations of the English nation. His visionary leadership transformed a fragmented kingdom under constant threat into a resilient, learning society united by law, faith, and armed defense. Through military innovation, legal code creation, and a revival of learning and literacy, Alfred set a lasting example of enlightened kingship. His successors, notably Edward the Elder and Athelstan, built upon his legacy to unify England fully, advancing the monarchy's authority and weaving a national identity from disparate kingdoms. The peaceful reign of Edgar and subsequent rulers ensured stability, religious reform, and enhanced governance that shaped the emerging medieval English state. The monarchy Alfred helped forge evolved over centuries but remains rooted in his principles of justice, education, and responsible rulership. Recognized as the first king of all England, Alfred's impact reverberates through British history, culture, and institutions, making him not just a great king of his time but a timeless symbol of leadership and nationhood.